Morning. I'm sure that the parents of the kids who've been baptized today are going to say this to you personally, but I'll just say it publicly. A huge thank you to every family member, godparent or friend who's made the effort to be here today, especially if you don't normally attend church. For people who believe that baptism means something, this is a big day, and naturally the parents want to mark the occasion in the company of people who've loved them and supported them over the years. So thank you very much for standing with them in this. I know that it means a lot. It's hard, is it not, to conduct a proper celebration on your own. As you can see, I am an Arsenal supporter, and there was a very long, happy period during which we always beat local rivals Chelsea. This is in the days before a friend of Putin invested in them, especially at Stamford Bridge, home of Chelsea. And I had a long-term friend who came here called James, who was always inviting me to go to Stamford Bridge in the hope that I would be there to witness Chelsea's first victory. Well, that didn't work time after time after time, but there was one horrible occasion when Arsenal conceded a goal, and then they conceded another goal, and it did look as though for the first time in many, many years, Chelsea were going to beat Arsenal. And we always went to the Shed End, which is a place for belly-trained animals. And basically, it was dangerous to be there. And as an Arsenal supporter, I absolutely had to pretend to be a Chelsea supporter. And I had to pretend to celebrate these goals when they went in. Otherwise, that was quite a serious risk to my health. But then there was a really eccentric Arsenal player called Kanu, who scored not once, not twice, but 3 times, last time from the corner flag, almost impossibly, and Arsenal won once again. It was almost ecstatic. I actually damaged something in my throat trying not to cheer, but actually appearing to be deeply disappointed. And when I got out of the stadium, my one desire was to find a group of Arsenal supporters to celebrate with. And they weren't difficult to spot because they were the people delirious, almost drunk with joy. And I found a likely-looking group. I explained I'd had to remain entirely silent in the Shed End for fear of my life as all the goals went in, and I needed to jump around and celebrate with my own kind. At which point, we literally danced together, grown men who'd never met, and celebrated together. And they were just inviting me to the pub when a female Arsenal supporter screamed at the top of her voice, "That was better than sex!" At which point, they all went off in swift pursuit, I'm sure to agree with her philosophically. It is hard to celebrate on your own. And I guess that celebratory events like the birth of a child give us an opportunity to think about what's important in life. They're moments of taking stock, aren't they? They look so cute, don't they, babies? Obviously, we were dealing with one baby, weren't we? And one older child. And a baptism can even prompt the naive and foolish to turn to each other and say, "Come on, let's get on with it." Of course, everybody's happy when the little thing finally escapes the womb. But the truth is that nobody has any idea whatsoever what they're doing when they decide to have children. I've come to the conclusion that there are times in life when we simply refuse to believe that things that will definitely happen to us are definitely going to happen to us. They are inevitable, but for some reason we edit that out for ourselves. We see the lips of people who've been there, done that, moving. We hear their words, but we refuse to take them in for ourselves. I have a standard spiel, for example, that I give to engaged couples and also first-time parents, and it covers only the things that will definitely happen to them. But it's amazing how often, when these things are actually happening, they seem to have come as a complete shock. For example, I'm finding it so weird being with the same person all the time. Or, I just can't get the baby to sleep. Now, I was no different from the rest. In fact, I was probably worse. Our marriage preparation consisted of one meal with the person marrying us. I didn't think we needed a course, obviously. And he brought up arguments and how he and his wife had them. And we actually came away feeling quite sorry for them. Poor them, they have arguments, we thought. We went on to discover arguments for ourselves. Now, baptism, as we've heard, is really the induction of these children into the faith of the family. So it's like a positive opportunity to take stock, like getting married or moving into a new place, by contrast with a negative life event that might also provoke us to reevaluate what's really important, like redundancy or bereavement. These parents are intentionally initiating their kids into what they take to be the spiritual dimension of their family life. So I guess they're saying, we want our kids to grow up in the experience of this faith. And to help with this, we've been invited to continue to support them through our love and prayers, etc. If there was one thing about this process that I think the Christian parents who are here would want their family and friends to understand, it is that these kids are not being inducted into a religion. Religion has to do with the separation of people into categories according to their moral and spiritual performance. In Jesus' day, the culture was such that the law of the land and religious laws were pretty much the same thing. However, it's hard to pin a single law upon the historical Jesus. In fact, you could easily argue that Jesus seemed to delight in disregarding or ignoring or breaking most of the societal religious laws of his day. For example, in Jesus' day, you couldn't attribute significance to children, but Jesus did. You couldn't have close relationships with women outside of your family, but Jesus did. You couldn't have anything to do with non-Jewish people, but Jesus did. You couldn't have anything to do with the obviously immoral, but Jesus did. And you couldn't even touch the sick, but Jesus did. I could go on. Jesus claimed to fulfill or complete the law simply by loving God and our neighbor as ourselves. And he thought of such legal injunctions as do not kill, do not steal, do not commit adultery, as breaches of love. And in this, he claims to reflect the very heart and character of God, his Father. Which means that Christianity, properly understood, and not widely understood in this country, has to do with love and relationship, not religion and law. I'm a vicar. And whenever people ask me if I'm religious, I always say, no, not in the slightest. So these parents believe that they're publicly initiating their children into a spiritual dimension of love and relationship. So what's God doing then? Well, obviously nothing if you don't believe in God. If you do believe in God, however, it's obvious what he's doing. He's celebrating. Not only are we celebrating with those closest to us, but we're also celebrating with God. The Bible says of God that he rejoices over us with singing. He rejoices over you with singing. Maybe if we all start, we could hear him. He claims to have knitted each one of us together in our mother's womb, that he's counted every hair on our head, that he knows our going out and our coming in. And so God is celebrating the astonishing uniqueness of these children as they enter stage right, the great drama of life upon the earth. And I think that God's welcoming response at a baptism is a bit like this award-winning Saatchi & Saatchi T-Mobile advert from 2010, which you might like to watch. That's amazing, isn't it? How touching to be rejoiced over like that. Do you think that we celebrate one another enough? Especially the people that we share our lives with. It's a shame to leave it to a funeral, right? I know sometimes I communicate the exact opposite, but every so often I do go away with my wife with the sole intention of rejoicing over her. I take her to a great hotel with the kind of food she likes and the kind of room she likes with the kinds of magazines and chocolates she likes. Once, we even watched a rugby match she likes in an Australian bar in Bournemouth. That's love, I'm telling you. I also go away each year with one of my kids for a few days. I try to put together as much money as I can, and I took my first daughter to Paris to buy her first pair of high-heeled shoes. And Natasha and I just returned from Iceland, where I could see the volcano exploding through my, from my bedroom window. I want to make over-the-top gestures to show how much I love them. Now, this is what Christians say God has done for each of us in the person of Jesus. Made an over-the-top gesture to show how much he loves us. And this act of love is symbolized in baptism. We believe that through Jesus' death and resurrection, he draws us into love and relationship. Also, that he identifies so closely with us that everything significantly true of him can become significantly true of us. It's not like a Christian is somebody who makes an impossible promise to clean up their morality, thinks about not swearing in the car, and contemplates the inevitability of becoming a nun. It's like we enter into all that Jesus has done to make the human experience of life scintillating. We enter into his death, which means that the murkiest aspects of our past and the things that we cannot deal with can be dealt with. And we enter into his resurrection life so that we start to receive the power to live life in a way we would previously have thought to be impossible. And we have unlimited access to God the Father, who is the King of celebration. Talking of celebrations, we've just got through the granddaddy of them all, Christmas. Always seems such a long way off, doesn't it, Christmas? And yet it comes hurtling towards us like an out-of-control train. When the baby Jesus was born into the world, the event was marked by the mother of all cosmic celebrations, with angels and archangels and all the heavenly hosts singing in the sky. And who was there to hear that? All the wrong people. An immature girl, shamefully pregnant out of wedlock, a young and highly confused father-to-be, the wise men who weren't part of the people of God at all, and of course the shepherds washing their socks by night. So young people, immoral people, people from the wrong religion, people who were a byword for thievery. It's so wrong. It has to be right. Who would invent something like that? May the Lord bless each of these children, their parents, their friends, their supporters today. To bless in the Greek is to speak well of. May God speak well of you. I believe he always does. Finally, experience says that we are interested in the big questions of life, sometimes more intensely than we are at other times. Does life have a meaning beyond the meanings that we attribute to it? Is there a God? That kind of thing. But we probably lack a context in which to explore these questions properly, other than down the pub on a given occasion when we actually answer all the questions and we come to the perfect answers, then we just can't remember any of them the next day. So to help with this, we run a course called the Life Course for those who have questions about life and its meaning. The next one begins this Wednesday, the 24th, and it will happen downstairs here. There is great food. The team brings wine. There's a stimulating presentation by me and an opportunity for small group chit-chat. People choose whether they want to be in a discussion group to explore the big questions or whether they're doing the course just to integrate into St. Mary's here. Obviously, the small group chat is appropriate to the makeup of the group. And the presentations start right at the beginning with a consideration of the question, what gives meaning to our lives? And we go on from there. It's not a Bible study, it's not church, it's an opportunity to meet with like-minded people who also want to consider these sorts of questions. Over time, we do present some Christian claims, but we aim to create an open debate in which anybody can talk about anything that's interesting to them. Anybody is welcome to come. If you come once and you decide not to return, nobody is going to come hunting you down. We're not interested in your money. You won't end up in some kind of squat in Cricklewood. We're not trying to induct you into our cult. Do you know what? The most difficult thing about doing this course is coming the first time. People hate coming the first time. People walk around the building, they go to the pub, they do anything except come in. There are people who intend to do the course who turn up and don't come in. It's difficult the first time. Social deathy. You know, will there be two old ladies and a sandwich? No, there'll be me. I'll be wearing exactly the same clothes or a version of them, and I'll be here to talk to you like I am now. and you'll meet some nice people. People ought to say that the highlight of the course is my talks. But what they actually say is it's meeting the people and going on a common journey. And they say that time after time. So if you think this might be of interest to you, there will be a table at the back which has small brochures for this course, or you can come and talk to me. I'll be sitting here at the front afterwards if you'd like to do that.